What we learned about the Broncos at the trade deadline. The Denver Broncos didn't make any big moves at the 2024 NFL trade deadline. Instead of bringing in splashy players or making headline-grabbing trades, the team made a few quieter, more calculated moves that reflect their current strategy and outlook for the season. The most notable action the Broncos took was trading away depth edge player Baron Browning to the Arizona Cardinals. In exchange, the Broncos secured an extension for one of their key starting edge rushers, ensuring that their defensive line remains stable moving forward. Beyond that, however, the trade deadline came and went without much action, leaving Broncos country with little more than speculation on what could have been. So, what does this lack of activity mean for the team? In my opinion, it shows that head coach Sean Payton believes the Broncos are on the right path, but they're not yet in a position to make a significant push for the postseason by trading away resources for immediate help. Payton and the front office seem to understand that the team is still in a developmental phase. While there are bright spots, the Broncos roster still has gaps, particularly at running back, wide receiver, tight end, safety, and inside linebacker. None of these positions, however, would drastically change the trajectory of the season if they were addressed through a trade right now. This decision should come as no surprise to anyone who has been closely following the team. The Broncos are in a rebuilding phase, and while they've shown potential, they are still lacking some key pieces to become a true contender. Given the roster's current state, adding a player at this stage wouldn't significantly alter the team's outlook for 2024, especially when the goal for this season is more about building for the future. That said, the Broncos are far from out of the playoff race. The talent they do have on the roster is enough to keep them in contention for a wild card spot, which would be a major accomplishment for Payton and the organization in his second year as head coach. With this in mind, the Broncos could not afford to trade away key players like wide receiver Courtland Sutton, even if some might argue that he might not fit into the team's long-term plans. Sutton's presence on the roster could be a crucial factor in the team's efforts to secure a playoff berth. Looking ahead, however, things could be different. The 2025 offseason might present more opportunities for the Broncos to be more aggressive at the trade deadline. With the team potentially out from under the burdensome Russell Wilson contract and an improved roster after a productive offseason, the Broncos could find themselves in a better position to make a deal. Whether it's bringing in a specific player to fill a need or trading away a player for additional draft capital, the team may have more flexibility to make a splash next year. For now, the Broncos are focused on continuing to develop their young core, building a more competitive team, and positioning themselves for future success. While the trade deadline may have come and gone without fanfare, it's clear that the organization is more focused on long-term stability than on immediate short-term gains. The future looks bright, but the Broncos understand that patience will be key in getting back to their championship-contending ways. Broncos news. Cooper shows that Payton nailed the Broncos' 2021 draft. Jonathan Cooper, drafted in 2021, becomes the third player from that class to sign a long-term contract, reinforcing the success of George Payton's draft strategy. Other NFL news. NFL Power Rankings, Week 10. The Philadelphia Eagles continue their winning streak, while teams like the Cowboys are facing struggles. Eric Edholm ranks all 32 teams at the season's midpoint, offering a snapshot of the league's dynamics. NFL Trade Deadline. Recap. The trade deadline saw several moves across the league, including the Steelers adding wide receiver Mike Williams and edge rusher Preston Smith. The Commanders made a bold move for Pro Bowl cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, and the Cowboys secured wide receiver Jonathan Mingo from the Panthers. Injury updates. Bengals running back. Zach Moss is placed on injured reserve with a neck injury, while Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson is expected to play despite missing practice ahead of Thursday's game against the Bengals. The Broncos' approach to the trade deadline may have been quieter than some expected, but it shows a level of strategic thinking that could pay off in the long run as they continue to build towards a stronger future.